What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with the overall market, what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and talk about how the technicals are looking so far. But before I break anything down about all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends in just 5 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the overall market and Tesla. So Tesla was down 4.2% for the day, looking very, very weak for today. And the reason behind this was not only because of the overall market, but also because of some new news that came out from China that caused Tesla to start selling off. Now, in the morning, I told everyone that Tesla would likely make an attempt to bounce for today, but I called it a very temporary bounce. This was temporary, and we did manage to attempt to bounce as we started off. Tesla was green for a large part of today for the first couple of hours, but then as time went on, Tesla began to slow down with the market, and Tesla ended up becoming relatively weak. Remember, Tesla is being shorted even harder than before, and now it's looking even weaker. Today, I was unable to give you guys an intraday update video because I was very busy, and I'm going to be even more busy for tomorrow because I'm going to be moving to a new place. For that reason, I'm not going to be uploading any videos tomorrow. I'm very sorry about that. I'm just going to be busy, and I'll be back on Sunday after this video is out to release my next video. So until then, I hope everyone stays very safe and everyone takes care. But as far as Tesla goes, it's looking very, very weak right now. On the 4 hour time frame, I want everyone to pay attention to these imbalances down here. So when we zoom out, all the way out on this chart, we actually have this imbalance way down here around this 238 area. This is going to be a very key level for Tesla, and I believe Tesla is likely going to test this, not to mention 235 down here, which is where we have this support. So 235 to 238 are going to be potential targets, especially if we break below 240. And there's a very good chance of that potentially happening because Tesla looks very, very weak. Tesla's been shorted very hard over the last couple of trading days, over the last week and a half. More shorts are piling in. And on top of this, we had some negative news. This is causing Tesla to slow down alongside the whole market. And we have a very bearish looking daily candle now. We have a bearish cross in the PPO. It's looking a lot weaker. And Tesla's likely going to see more downside as time goes on. I believe that we could see Tesla break below 240. And if that's the case, we're likely going to visit 235 to 238 before there is any sign of some kind of bounce. So it's looking very weak. Get ready for next week. That's going to be very, very important. Now, the question is, why did Tesla drop this hard, though? It was holding up for the first couple of hours. As time went on, Tesla had this news right here about their overall numbers. According to some insurance registration data collected by Citi analyst Jeff Chuang, he basically came out and said that according to the data, Tesla's seen some declines in their sales in China. Tesla sold about 13,000 EVs a week to Chinese car buyers, and that is once again not as great as what we want them to see. But September sales have dropped to about 9,000 a week according to the insurance data, and we're seeing fewer retail deliveries in China, making it difficult for Tesla to hit its consensus call amongst many of these analysts. So basically, we were wanting there to be about, you can see right here, expectations have come down. The average Wall Street estimate was around 473,000 a couple of weeks ago. And now it looks like we could be seeing about 463,000 or something like that. So a slight decline in Tesla's deliveries in China could be happening, especially for the month of September. That's some bearish news technically. And there's also news that came out about Cathie Wood selling just a small part of her position on Tesla. It was very minor though, and she's still holding loads and loads of those shares nonetheless. It's still making up a large part of the weight of ARK. So it's not the end of the world, but there was a lot of negative headlines coming out. We saw some declines in Chinese numbers and all these different factors that led to some selling pressure for Tesla, not to mention the overall market. For next week, I just want to remind everyone, we don't really have too much data coming out besides Friday when we have the PCE report coming out. That's going to be very important as it's going to give us a good idea of how the Fed is looking at the data, how inflation is looking in the Fed's eyes. And this is going to be super, super telling. We are expecting the overall inflationary numbers to not look as strong, to be a little bit hotter than expected, especially like month over month. You could see personal spending could be going up too. So this is going to be very important. We're expecting this, and we're not going to be looking at the best of numbers possibly. So just be very careful, and we will see what happens with that. Now, as far as Tesla goes, we dropped on high volume. 127 million was almost what the volume was. That is once again a bearish signal. Volume is going up and we're selling very hard. We're likely going to see the short volume start to go up as Tesla is continuing to be sold. Goldman Sachs was the last analyst to say they're neutral on Tesla. The price price ratio dropped hard today as Tesla's losing relative strength. And on top of this, on a seasonality basis, Tesla tends to do better on Mondays, but this time around, we have a very bearish looking daily candle going into Monday, so we could see more downside. And the overall short interest is still relatively high for Tesla compared to the periods of July through August. We're seeing a lot more shorting ever since we hit the month of September. Going into about the second week of September, the shorting went crazy on Tesla. I mean, we saw one day where Tesla was shorted with 55 plus million positions. So it's being shorted harder. And this is once again part of why Tesla's selling off the way it is. So looking at the chart, like I said before, we're going to be watching 242 as the next support zone, which is not that strong, then 240 below that. 240 is going to be a key level. If that breaks, we're going to be watching Tesla come all the way down to 238 and potentially 235. It's looking more bearish. Bearish crossing the PPO is there. The daily candle is looking very weak. There's likely more downside coming before Tesla makes an attempt to bounce. How about SPY? SPY has some strong support at 430. It's trying to hold it, but the daily candle is looking a little bit weaker. So I do believe the market overall will try to bounce a little bit later, but it may take a little bit longer than expected because we're still looking weak. I believe that with this capitulation going on, the market could drop a little bit lower. We could see SPY hit around this 429 flat area, maybe even 427, depending on how aggressive it is. But I think the 429s may be tested first, and then we could see a bounce and attempt to try to fill this gap. We may hit gap resistance at 435, maybe try to fill the gap, and then we could reject later on and then continue selling as we approach the end of September, going into October to hit 425 or so on SPY. So once again, a little drop could be coming, a small bounce, an attempt to fill this gap, then another rejection for even more selling to lower levels into the 425s on SPY. Seems very probable in my opinion. The overall trend is more bearish. We are due for a small bounce in the future, but before any small bounce comes, the market could sell off a little bit more, especially Tesla. I'm going to be as clear as possible on that. Now, for the IWM, looking more bearish as well. We have a bearish looking daily candle. We're going to be watching this thing try to hold 176.5. If that fails us, 175 is on the table before this thing attempts to see buyers stepping in. Apple is kind of flat right now, going back and forth and back and forth. It may continue on this trend. The daily is not looking that great, kind of flat. So I believe that Apple could retest the 173.7 zone and just continue to trade sideways. Not really do anything too significant, but the 4 hour is about to get a bullish cross right here. So I think that we have very mixed signals on Apple. It's just going to be stuck between the 174 to 176 zone, not really do too much. The QQQ is barely holding support, not looking that great though, because if we break below 357, the next critical support is going to be around 355 to 354. Don't forget, at the same time, if we do try to bounce off this, we have to try to hold above 360 for us to get some more favor for the bulls. So we're going to be watching 357 on the QQQ. My guts tells me it could drop a little bit thanks to Nvidia and Tesla and then make a bounce later on. But there could be more downside. So watch 357. See if it breaks below that and gets closer to 355 before bouncing. Nvidia is showing more life than the market. It's starting to show some strength, but it's not looking very, very strong at the same time. So what do I mean by it's showing some strength? I mean that it's a little bit stronger than the market. Nvidia managed to close green, which is a decent sign. But at the same time, the way it moved today was not that great. It was very, very tight. And we have this gap down here below. This makes me think that because the market's still looking kind of weak, we could see Nvidia come down and establish a higher low to retest this support at 410 before it tries to bounce and push back up to 422. It could just be a very temporary bounce before more potential downside in the future, but I believe that Nvidia could be set for a bounce soon. It just may cool off one last time to fill this gap before it gets that true bounce for a backtest and for it to establish a higher low. If it's already ready to bounce, you want to see it hold above 422 to try to get back to these higher levels, but that's looking unlikely looking at how weak the market looks. So watch this thing around this 416 zone, very close to this area. Can we hold above this 410 zone? If we break below 412, I'm going to be expecting 410 to be retested before it attempts to bounce. So we're going to be watching that carefully. A drop before a bounce seems more probable for it. Microsoft has a bullish divergence that has developed on it, so it could try to bounce from here and try to get back above 320. If it fails to bounce, it could drop a little bit lower and then hold the bullish divergence and then bounce. So it could come down to 315 then bounce, or it could try to bounce from here. That's what Microsoft is looking like. I'm in the middle with that with those different options. And I think that 315 can be tested first, anyways. So it could drop a little bit first and then bounce, but I do believe it's going to bounce soon. Maybe it's going to likely drop first and then bounce though. But like I said, just always be open minded and watch how it reacts. The VIX is looking not the strongest. It's kind of flat right now because on, I believe it's the daily charts, we saw this thing hitting the 200 EMA and it's kind of rejecting off it a little bit, but still trying to hold up. So the VIX might push up a little bit to try to retest the 200, which could be because of the market potentially dropping a little bit more. But then the VIX may reject off this just to cool off a little bit as the market tries to bounce maybe later into the week. But then it may just be a temporary, bounce for the stock market because there is going to likely be more downside as we get closer to October, and then the VIX may continue to break out as time goes on. The weekly on the VIX is looking more bullish than bearish as of right now. So it could still, pop, cool off a little bit, and then continue to break out if it gets above the 50 EMA. There's still more upside potential for it as the market could remain bearish. That tells us that SPY and the market could cool off a little bit, get a small bounce, and then get a bigger drop as time goes on to get back down to like 425 or so. The VIX is still making that very, very possible, in my opinion. Coinbase is looking bearish. We're going to be watching 68 and 66 to potentially be tested. It looks bearish on the daily and the 4-hour time frame, continuing to sell off. So I could be watching for more downside. 68 to 66 are very possible. Google is starting to look very flat right now, but there could be more downside as it tests this 130 support. We're going to be watching to see if that holds or not. If that fails, you're going to be watching 128. 130 is going to be a key test. I think it could drop a little bit more, and we're going to see if this bounces or not off there. Looking at Amazon is looking a little weaker. We're going to be watching to see if it could try to hold 128 flat. If it does so, it could bounce. If not, it's going to come all the way down to 126. So watch those levels on Amazon. It looks more bearish though. It looks like it may come down to 126 before bouncing anyways. Meta is not looking that great. The daily candlestick looks weak. Maybe pushed up and came back down, barely closing green. I could see this thing retesting 296 and still looking kind of weak. So anyways, guys, that's what I have for this video. Hopefully this video is helpful for the weekend. You guys can rewatch this over the weekend if you need more time. And don't forget, I'm not going to be available tomorrow to record any videos. I'm going to be very busy moving to a new place. And then I'll see you guys very soon on Sunday. So please take care, enjoy the weekend, do what you have to do, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Thank you all so much. Have a great weekend. Please take care of yourselves, and I want the best for all of you nonetheless. The market could be very brutal sometimes, very, very difficult sometimes, but the best thing to do is manage risks, keep your composure, and do not let this market get the best of you, okay? It's a battle not with the market against you, but more like with you against your own self, because it is possible to be profitable. It is possible to make money. You just have to learn how to manage risks. Don't let your emotions get the best of you and to do what's best for your own portfolios. All right. So take care, everyone. If you didn't have a great week, then take this as a very good opportunity to take some time off. If you had a good week, take this as a break to get back and get even more gains for next week. So take care, do what you have to do, and I'll see you guys very soon on Sunday. Thank you and peace out.